A little bit after I first started working out, I was working for this armored car company. And there was this guy that I worked with who was fat as shit. But he would always talk about how back in the day, back when he was younger, back when he was in high school, back when he was in college, he benched 315 pounds and he was super jacked and he had abs and all of that other nonsense. He was always talking about what it was that he used to do. I know most people have ran into somebody like that who they talk about how good of shape that they used to be in and how women used to like them because used to look super good and they used to be really strong and they used to do X, Y, and Z. And by the same token, there are also people who are always talking about how good of a business that they used to run, or they used to be super successful. They used to own a bunch of houses that they rented out, or they owned car dealerships, they owned whatever the case may be. They had some sort of great business that got messed up back in 2008 or during COVID or anything along those lines. Once upon a time in life, they were really well off financially. You see people talking about the same thing with relationships that they had once, or where it is that they used to live. They used to be very stylish, something along those lines. Or even maybe they talk about their childhood, how they had a really good upbringing and their parents made a bunch of money and they did this and they did that. They're always living in the past and talking about how great things were. But currently, in the present, they are out of shape, they are broke, they have no relationship or a terrible relationship or something along those lines. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, there are people who had terrible childhoods, who had terrible upbringings, who had lots and lots of terrible experiences with relationships. Maybe their parents were abusive or neglectful or not there. They had a bunch of toxic partners, something along those lines. Something really bad happened. They got into some sort of accident or something when they were really young and it took them a very long time to recover from that. Or they had some sort of disability or disablement or something along those lines that they were dealing with as a child that they had to work through. And now that they're an adult, they've overcome all of that and they are now in really good shape. They make a bunch of money. They have great relationships, all of that. They have all of these amazing lives having come from a terrible one prior. I say all that to say that everyone is so obsessed with the past, and people will look back and say, well, I had this terrible traumatic upbringing and that's the reason that my life is terrible now. But there are people who had terrible pasts who have great presents, and there are people who had great pasts who have terrible presents. A bad past doesn't mean a bad present any more than a good past means a good present. Just because things were a way, it does not mean that they need to continue on being a way. It doesn't matter what happened before. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday. It doesn't matter what it is that you've been through. All that matters is today. It is this current moment. And if you don't like how things have been up until this moment, then you have the ability to change them, because at any point in time you could pivot and you could become somebody entirely different. People attach all of these stupid little labels to themselves. I'm an introvert, I'm lazy, I'm a third thing that I can't think of. But just because you were introverted yesterday, it doesn't mean that you need to be introverted today. Just because you were lazy yesterday, it doesn't mean that you need to be lazy today. You can change any of these things in the moment that you are in currently. None of the rest of it matters. For all intents and purposes, the past may as well never have happened, because all that you will ever have in life is today. And if you want tomorrow to be better, then you need to make the most of today without worrying about yesterday. None of it matters, period, at all, whatsoever. And anyone who tells you that it does is just trying to enable you to continue to be where it is that you are. All of these things are nothing more than excuses. This is reasons for you to not try and do what it takes to make your life better. Maybe you did have a terrible upbringing, whoop-de-doo, but it's not happening currently. Maybe you had a very terrible past. So what? It's not happening in the present, and that is all that matters. None of these things are going on currently. As of right now, you have choices, and you can make the choices to better yourself in this moment, to do the things that you know that you should be doing in this moment, and then move on and build onto that. And that is the only way that you are ever going to get to wherever it is that you would like to be. When people look to the past and say, well, this happened in my childhood, and this is why I have a bad relationship with food and an eating disorder, none of that matters, Because if you want to lose weight, you need to eat less food. It doesn't matter why you eat more food. It doesn't matter why you drink the alcohol. It doesn't matter why you do the drugs. It doesn't matter why you have these issues in these relationships. If you want things to be better, you have to change them. And you have the power to change them right now. None of that yesterday shit means anything.